The sign-up sheet's at the front door, very front door, all the way at the front. Yeah, there's two people. Yeah, right. Betty's got it out in front of her. Yeah, she's coming this way. I'd like to call the Planning and Development Committee meeting for the City of Evanston for Monday, June 13th to order. We have a quorum. The City Council members are present. We have a few individuals who would like to speak regarding a couple of the items. So I think I'd like to call... No? Did you get a chance to sign up? I'll be calling the attorneys with the respective items. Thank you. Okay, great. First item is approval of the regular minutes of May 23rd, 2011. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The May 23rd, 2011 minutes are approved. We have three individuals signed up to speak this evening. The first is Betty Esther, Joyce Childress, and Florence, and I can't read the last name, Malizola. Ms. Esther, could you please step to the podium? Thank you.
My name is Betty Esther. I stay at 2031 Church Street, and I'm speaking on PD1, discussion of draft ordinance amending various portion of the zoning ordinance to require permitted for minor home occupancy. I read that and had a lot of questions. One was, okay, why did the city think it's necessary to change this? Why is it kind of infringing up on what people do in their home? Like, say, okay, you can't have a business, what type of business? And think that would have been something that would have been a ordinance that should be discussed in the wider community, because you have home-based business of all types here in the city. So is it just focusing on one type, or are you talking about all home-based business in general? So, but I think that before it goes any further, it should be an open community meeting on this for this discussion. Some things can be done in committee and stuff, but some things need to be opened up to try to get a wider community participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Just so people who might be attending the meeting know, this item is only a discussion item, and there is no ordinance, and it's just, as Betty said, open for discussion, and no codification of any concepts going to be made tonight.
Exactly. And it's also, I'll add to that, that this is the proposal, or the recommended action rather, is that the matter be referred to the Plan Commission for further consideration. So at that commission, it would be discussed, and the public would have ample opportunity to provide input at those meetings.
Right. And given what you've just commented on, we probably won't see it again here, if ever, for quite a while.
Correct. I would imagine so. Joyce Childress?
Joyce? I was going to go over there.
Okay. If you could just state your name and where you live.
Good evening. My name is Joyce Childress. I live at 1813 Leland Avenue here in Evanston. And I'm here this evening just to share my views on the home-based businesses. I don't think they're a bad thing. Probably would like to have one myself if I could. But they do present some problems, and I just wanted to share my experience and the one that's in my neighborhood. We have a home-based business, not sure what they do, but I believe it's an income tax service. It runs from 1 January to maybe June 1st. I've never been told what it was, but on the 1st of January, we have 3 to 5 additional cars show up at 7 in the morning, and the last one leaves around 7 in the evening. They're there all day, and I live on a one-way street with alternate side parking, which becomes a problem. Not only do you have the business, the employees there, they have clients, and they're all day, in and out all day. In the winter, when the city sounds the alarm for the snow removal, we're all trying to get on one side, and we have to compete with the people coming into the neighborhood. And to add insult, I've just shoveled my sidewalk, where they park right in front because they walk down the shoveled street, and I have to climb over the mountain of snow. So I do think they need to be monitored. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I just believe there needs to be some monitoring. We have several other businesses in my neighborhood. We have car washes that go in the summer, and nothing wrong with that. I'd like them to wash my car, but they block the alley, and they ask you not to come in the alley. They ask you to back up and go around, and I think that's just a little bit much. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. And Florence, and I apologize, it's hard to read, Malazzola? Is she still here?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Thank you. Oh, did you? Right. The golf course? Right. Do you want to speak at the council meeting then? This is the Planning and Development Committee, so that's actually something you'd probably want the whole group to hear. Okay, thank you. All right, that concludes our public comment section. Item P1 on our agenda tonight is consideration of a request for a two-year time extension for an approved plan development for 318 through 320 Dempster that expires on June 30th, 2011.
Move approval.
Second.
I believe Mr. Engelman is here to briefly answer any questions that we may have. Are there any questions from the committee?
No.
Okay. Well, identify yourself so we all know who you are.
Record Steve Engelman on behalf of the applicant Jeffrey Bouchard.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. It's moves to the council. Thank you. Item P2 on the agenda, consideration of a requested time extension of plan development approved by Ordinance 93003 for property at 1710 Orrington Avenue and 1717 through 1725 Shervin Avenue.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, and I believe Mr. Grains is here to answer any questions if there might be any, or somewhere. Are there any? Yes, Alderman Rainey.
Well, I was concerned about this one. There was a request for a 5-year extension, I believe, and, pardon me? And staff is recommending 2. And I don't know. I mean, this is their property. I have no problem giving them 3. I mean, I think 5 is kind of long. At this point in the economy's recovery, I'm expecting it to fully recover in 3 years.
We're all hopeful.
Yeah, but I think 2 is a little short, given that they asked for 5, and I would certainly support 3 years.
Okay. Go ahead, Alderman Holmes.
Orrington.
I think this is the second.
Second extension.
Right. There was a little over 3-year extension.
I understood that one,
Right.
but I thought that was a previous one.
So in Greg Rains, for the record, Greg Rains from DLA Piper, we had built in, since it was a multi-phase project, we had 5 years to complete the project. It was improved in 2003, and then in 2008 we came back and asked for extension. So this is our second extension request.
And your last extension was for 2 years?
The last extension
Was for,
was for 3 years.
For 3 years.
Yes,
Okay, so
from
you've got
2008 to 2011.
okay, I've got it. You've got 1 3-year extension. Is 2 years acceptable to you? I mean, is there a problem
We
coming
would
back in 2
prefer
years?
3 years, but if this committee is supportive of 2, we'll take 2 years.
Okay. Well, I think 2 is.
Then you keep coming back.
You can come back. We like to see you.
Okay, we'd like to see you guys too. So
All right, staff recommended 2. Is that a motion, Alderman Rainey, to modify the
I'd like
recommendation
to
to 3?
amend to 3 years. This is a business that we embrace here, and I just would like to show them that we support all of their efforts.
All right, is there a second on the motion to amend to 3 years?
I would second to 3.
Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, 1 opposed. And then is there a motion with regard to the extension of 3 years?
Move approval.
Second.
And all those in favor of the 3-year extension, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the 3-year extension will move to the council.
Thank you.
Item P3, consideration of a request for a 2-year extension of a special use for the establishment of a dormitory located at 1620 Central Street, which is the proposed National Louis University PACE program dormitory. Is there a motion with regard to this item?
Move approval. Second.
And I believe Mr. Lawler is here to answer any questions that the committee may have. I'm somewhat familiar with the project from my time on the ZBA, so I don't have any questions. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that matter will proceed to council. Thank you. Item P4 on the agenda, Ordinance 55011, amending subsection 2-9-8-C of the City Code to require mailed notice of certain meetings of the Preservation Commission. Is there a motion on this item?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Nguyen, I think this was your request. Could you just briefly tell us your purpose in making the request?
Well, the reason why I had made this reference was because there has been an instance in my ward in which a significant addition has been added to a house, and because it met it did not require any zoning variance. It was within the zoning ordinance, and it didn't require any notice to neighbors, but and it did go to the Preservation Commission, and even though our staff suggested very strongly that, as they always do, and gave the applicants a form that they have and suggested that they contact the neighbors, the homeowners did not do that, and it has had a fairly significant impact on the neighbors immediately adjacent, and I have to agree with them. And it's unfortunate that we have to codify this, but I do think that because of this instance, I think we have to require people to do it. I think it would have allowed the community to come to the Preservation Commission and point out some of the negative aspects of what this addition was doing, and maybe allowed the Preservation Commission to make some suggestions about what was going to occur. So I do think that I think it's a way of making sure that we have good neighbor relations so that there are no surprises like what's happening in this instance. And it's just a notice provision so that people don't have the surprise of saying, I didn't know, I would have liked to have had the opportunity to go and see what they're going to build.
All right, and this is for introduction. Is there, we have a motion and a second. Alderman, any questions?
I know in some other communities, notice to neighbors is a requirement, and I have no problem with making this a requirement. But I think the obligation ought to be with the applicant. I realize we're going to collect a small fee for the notice, and our staff is going to do getting the names and mailing. But I think that ought to be the applicant's responsibility. I've always thought it should be the applicant's responsibility at ZBA and other notices. And then they simply have to come to the city and the applicant has to prove that they've made notice to the surrounding neighbors or the required neighbors. I just think that our staff we're so short-staffed, and even if there's only a few of these a year, it doesn't matter. It's setting a tone that we will do everything for neighbors. And I think that the applicant ought to do it.
All right.
I thought.
I'm guessing that, what's the fee on something like this? Do you-
It says $25 to $40.
We've estimated, depends on how many are in this 250-foot area, but a range of $25 to $40 extra it would cost in notice fees.
Okay, and there,
It's mail.
okay.
It's the mailing cost.
I don't
Right,
think
and that,
that's-
and that's not covering the cost of us actually doing this. And frankly, I don't know that covers the mailing costs for 250 items. ahead.
If I could respond, and I've done it this way before, where, like Alderman Rainey is suggesting, they bring certifications, but in fact, we have to still do a check. How often does a resident come up and say, I didn't get noticed? And we have to go back and check and do the records and all that kind of stuff. So I guess I absolutely sympathize and hear what Alderman Rainey's saying, but I guess if we're going to go into it, I'd rather do it ourselves, because we're going to have to cross-check that anyway, and we'll know it was done right.
Then let's raise the fee.
I think the fee should reflect the actual cost
Right.
for both the staff effort as well as the postage. So maybe if we could get, this is for introduction before we come back for action, if we could get an assessment on what the actual cost would be.
Okay.
Is that fair?
We'll do that.
I agree.
Okay.
Can I make one comment?
Yes.
I just wanted to say, Carlos, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, at the Preservation Commission, the commissioners normally ask the applicant whether or not they've reached out to neighbors. Is that correct?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Carlos Ruiz. I'm the Preservation Coordinator. To respond to Alderman Rainey's, Alderman Fisk's question, the Commission does ask the question. In this instance, the owner had submitted a affidavit that they have noticed, but there's no way for us to double check. We, encourage them to do it. We prepare the form to notify and the affidavit to confirm, but that's the only thing we have. So there's no way to double check.
Right. I think as long as we're actually recouping the actual cost, I'm more comfortable with it. But I agree, there's no way to, I'm more comfortable if we do it because we know it's done closer to right.
But we get the same challenge for you. I didn't get a copy.
No, I recognize
Do we
that.
do certified mail?
No.
Certified? No?
And I don't want to recommend that. Certified is a lot more
They do it
expensive.
in, they do it in.
If we were to certify, that would probably quadruple the cost of the.
Not to mention the fact that we're going to get
All
return
right,
mail and paperwork to
all I'm
process.
saying is that we keep bemoaning the fact that we're short-staffed and underfunded, and then we keep taking on more and more responsibilities. So if we can determine the exact cost of doing this job, then, maybe we can use an intern or something to do it.
No, we'll bring the cost back to you at your next, when this is up for consideration.
Okay, so we can introduce this and amend the fee aspect before it's approved for action. So all those in favor of introduction?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the matter is introduced. The next item on the agenda is PD1, which is a discussion of a draft ordinance amending various portions of the zoning ordinance which would require permits for minor home occupations. And Alderman Holmes, I think this was your reference.
Yes. Thank you, Alderman Wilson. I definitely wanted to speak to this because I think this is the second time that it's been brought to the council, to the committee. I don't know, I can't speak for another ward. I can only speak for my ward in terms of where this has been a major problem. I'm happy that Mrs. Childress came out tonight to talk about just one block. I have a lot of other blocks of examples that I can give you of where home businesses cause an impact on the residents of those particular blocks. We have one block where someone has a rug cleaning service in a garage. I mean, I have all kinds of things that interfere with traffic and noise for other residents. But even more than that, I just think that as a city, we ought to know what businesses are located in our city. I just think that that is part of us being good stewards. I really do. And I think that it's not the matter of whether we're going to have big fees. That's not, if we need to do a fee that covers the cost of having them registered, giving them a permit. I don't care about that piece. But I do think that the city needs to know, the staff needs to know what businesses we have in the community, home-based or otherwise. So I'm hoping that this committee will talk about it. I hope you will support it because I think it's important. And that we can see the number of sometimes police calls, for instance, in terms of the car wash in the alley, when people are wanting to go down an alley and people are washing cars in an alley because they're running a home-based business out of their garage, that cause more taxing on our police department in terms of calls, because people will call the police on that or other types. I know that the Planning and Development Department could, if Jeff Murphy was here, he could tell you about the number of calls that we've had and the number of references that I've made in terms of different addresses where we've had this problem. So it's not only the effect that it's having on the residents and in particular the parking and noise, but also because I think that the city just needs to know what businesses we have in the community. If something happens, people will call the city, and we don't even know that there's a business or whatever's happening in that particular neighborhood or that address. So I just think it's a part of being a good steward.
Okay. Do we have other, Alderman Fisk?
Yeah, thank you for that, Dolores. I guess I hadn't realized the extent of the problem. I normally think of home-based businesses as businesses occurring within a house, and basically quiet, unobtrusive businesses that, at least in my ward, have served almost as incubators for people who are then come out and rent space in the downtown and hire staffs and then become real businesses. So don't we have something already that prohibits car washes in the alleys and folks using their property in illegal ways? Isn't there something already on the books that... Can somebody answer that?
If so, it hasn't been shown to me.
We do.
Mr. Marino, did you have some thoughts to
Yes.
share? Thank you.
Dennis Marino, Manager of Planning and Zoning. In your packet is the chapter 5 from the zoning ordinance that regulates home-based businesses currently. And what's listed in your packet, page number of 370, 6-5-7, is prohibited home occupations. And if you flip to the next page, 371, you'll see the kinds of businesses that are prohibited from being home-based businesses. Also, we don't certify businesses to operate from a garage. They're operating from the house with the percentage use standards that are listed in the current ordinance.
Alderman Rainey?
Wait, I have auto repair shops operating out of garages.
Garages all the time.
That is an absolute zoning violation in a residential district. It's a violation. And you're saying car washes in alleys are not a violation, or you are saying?
No, I'm saying they are. They would
They
not
are.
be
The
proper.
woman who spoke earlier, Mrs. Childress, about the 6 employees, 5 or 6 cars coming to do income taxes, that's a violation. I mean, right in here, so.
Yes, it is.
But on the other hand, speaking of being understaffed, on Chicago Avenue, the first 2 businesses on Chicago Avenue in Evanston, north of Howard, have never had a business license. So, I mean, there they are, right out there with great big signs and, all sorts of obvious business going on. I don't think we have sufficient staff to even license the businesses that are in business districts. So I think this is going to be a little challenging. But I think we just need to, Dolores, do you know if those have been, Alderman Holmes, if they have been reported?
I do know that they've been reported many times, and I do know that I'm saying again, how would the city know that these businesses are operating? Until the neighbor
Right. reports
reports it, and therefore I see it. I hear what you're saying, Alderman Rainey, in terms of I think, though, that if they were registered, at least we would know that they were there. Okay. Maybe they.
And that's good. I think we should, because that way we could advertise their services and even maybe hire them. Really, we're always looking for Evanston businesses.
That's true.
So, but there they are, right out there in public without a business license. So I think to some extent, it's not only a matter that the business notice us that they're there, but that we have the capability of getting on top of it. And I think it's a serious issue that our city needs to deal with.
And I think that's where we got to the last time in terms of what we have the staff to do it, and therefore there would need to be a fee then to cover a staff person to do it. And so I think that's how we got into the fees before. So, we end up in the same, I guess at the same gate that we were at the last time.
But what people aren't hearing is that it's a one-time fee.
Absolutely.
It's not an annual fee, it's a one-time fee to get your business registered. And that could actually, if you've got a legitimate home-based business, that could actually
helpful to you.
Be helpful. It really could.
I agree with some of what both of you have said, but to me it sounds like it might be more of an enforcement problem and perhaps a manpower problem. And one of the reservations I have in going forward with this kind of an ordinance is that it's going to I presume it's going to put a significant additional burden on the staff that we have just to go through this process, register these businesses. It seems to me that there's going to be a large number of the things like the artist studios, the CPAs, artists, graphic artists, consultants, things of that nature. They're probably the ones that would most likely be registering, but it seems to me that the ones that are the car wash in the alley, those types of things are probably, or the garage that's operating when they shouldn't be operating now, they're probably not going to be registering anyway. So I think it's probably going to be an ongoing problem, but it's going to be more difficult for our existing staff to manage this new ordinance and all of the generally compliant people who aren't causing a problem, in addition to the existing problems. So I do have some reservations in that regard. And I'm also concerned because I feel like it does send a negative message as far as being proactive for promoting business in the town. As Alderman Fisk said, a lot of these businesses are startups or maybe people trying to change their business or their life goals, and they might view this as being somehow negative towards those efforts. So I have some reluctance on that.
Don't you think it's the way in which we frame it? I don't see it as a negative at all. I just think it's a matter of the way in which we frame it. I guess if we look at it negative, then they will see it as negative as well. I don't see it as negative as being able to say that I have a registered business or, in Evanston. What could be negative about that? And whether it's in your home or not. You have a legitimate business, whether it's small, big, or medium size, and it's registered with the city of Evanston. What is the negative of that? I just don't see it.
Well, and it does seem that the intended purpose is to address problems in the neighborhoods. So if you're one of these people that's having to go in and register, because I've gotten feedback about this. A lot of people that I've talked to feel like this is punishment, that they're being punished for what the bad guys are doing. So I think that's the perception that's out there.
And I think we have a responsibility to change that perception. I really do, as that is a part of our job, is to change that perception, because it's not. And certainly I don't see it as punishment, and that's certainly not my intent.
Okay. Alderman Fisk, did you have a thought?
Yeah, just one quick thought. I guess I'm a little bit concerned about threshold here and how we're going to define the home-based businesses. I mean, there are obvious ones where you have clients coming in and parking problems and, deliveries 3 or 4 times a day or things like that. But, a lot of what I'm reading in the, it sounds very much like a normal private person just living in their house. And so I think we need to look at how we're going to be defining this in terms of licensing. Again, if it's someone who takes up a hem of a dress 2 or 3 times a week, as opposed to someone who's, has 6 or 7 or 8 clients coming in per day and is getting deliveries, that's totally something else. And I'm not quite sure at this point how we're going to break that down, to be fair. Again, I don't want to harm anyone who's trying to start up a business or make a little bit of extra money and require them to go out and have apply for a license from the city. I don't think that's going to be perceived well, and I think it's just inviting a lot of criticism. So I think we need to be real careful on how we are looking at defining the home-based businesses, who is going to require a license and who wouldn't.
Alderman Rainey?
Unfortunately, we've just established 311, so we don't have, I don't know that we have a record of complaints. But having said that, I'd like to look to the planning department to see if they could pull together a list of addresses where they know that they've received complaints. So we can take a look at that. And I think that if we've got people who are really abusing their neighbors with, car washes in the alley or, rug cleaning businesses and car repairs going on in the front lawn, that we need to come down hard on those cases because they're the ones that are really pointing to the issue of all home-based businesses. So if we could just get a start and take a look at those and see what action has been taken to reform those bad businesses or businesses who are acting irresponsibly, I think that would be a helpful first step. Also, the Chamber has a home-based business division, right? Maybe we could communicate with them and find out how they feel about this. Because I mean, they want to be known. The home-based businesses, they want to be known. So, I mean, let's take a first step before we start with this. I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yes.
Again, all this is asking tonight is to, and I've got all these suggestions, concerns, and how to do this, is to send this to the Plan Commission for their formal review and comment. And I can make this part, the Chamber Committee, the frequent complaint list, also kind of like we were talking about with the notices, the enforcement and manpower challenges. But very honestly, where I came from most recently, we had this same kind of provision. It was a desk job. It's much like what Dominic and Martin do now in my office with, let's say, a yard sale, where people just come in, they fill up the application, then we enter it into the system. So now we'd be entering this into whatever this business license would be. But again, what we found it helpful for is basically going over some of the, and communicating some of the basic, ground rules with this, that, no more than 3 clients at one time. Deliveries, it's a way to communicate that, please, we want your home business, but here's the parameters with it. It's more of that exercise than it is, a hammer going out there and going after people that don't get licenses.
But we know who the bad guys are.
I know.
And I think that we should address that problem right away.
Right, and frankly, I just don't see how this is going to solve the problem with the bad guys. And implementing this, there's going to be a cost associated with implementing it. That there's just no way around that. There's going to be staff time. There's going to be, forms prepared. There's going to be an actual out-of-pocket cost that's necessary to undertake this. And I'm just not comfortable taking that step, just based on the nature and the broad wording of this ordinance. Alderman Fisk, I think you were first.
Just quickly, I agree with Alderman Rainey. I think we should try to go after the bad guys, see what we can do about them. Again, I think anyone who's operating anything out of their garage is suspect, but I just don't think going after a wide range of, and I don't want to use the term going after.
Yeah, please don't.
Focusing, yeah, I don't want to do that. Focusing on a wide range of home-based businesses. We're in an economy where a lot of people have lost their jobs, and they're really trying hard to make a living and be creative about what skills they can bring that are saleable in the marketplace. And I think those are a lot of people who are working out of their homes, and I just don't want to add any more burden to them.
Rainey?
I don't think sending it to the Plan Commission is the answer here.
I agree. I'm not comfortable going that route. Okay, so we've got the item for discussion.
Could we meet?
Suggestions?
Could we somehow or another, how about the Economic Development Committee? Meet with them and the home-based business. They have a little committee at the chamber. Could we put it on our Economic Development Committee agenda? Alderman Holmes?
Okay.
You're on there.
Yeah, I'm on there, but I mean, why couldn't we keep it in this committee and just
Well,
have
we
them
could-
come?
we
in?
could-
Keep it in this,
Yeah.
Keep it
okay,
in this
okay.
committee.
Hold this for
I mean, I
further
think that we
discussion.
need to
That would be
And-
easier.
Own up to where we are.
Right, come back a month from now, maybe 2 meetings from now, and have that Economic Development Committee meeting or a conversation in the interim. Or with the chamber, right. Okay.
But
All right.
I would like a report from staff, like I requested, on the complaints that have been made against those problematic home-based businesses.
Okay, so the matter will be held for further discussion till the 2 meetings from now, and I think that was our last item on the agenda. Any communications, Mr. Griffin? Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We are adjourned. Thank you.